My name is Lori Worman, and I'm the e-commerce internet sales manager here at Hecht Chevrolet Toyota in Effingham, Illinois. And we've been in business for going on 63 years, I believe. And I love every minute of it.
So thank you for joining me today. As you heard, I have Lori Worman with me. I'm very excited to talk to her today. Lori, how did you get started in automotive?
Well, it goes way back to 1987, believe it or not. I worked in the automotive aftermarket, selling parts and accessories for Corvettes, and which the picture behind me shows. I have a little bit of a love affair with Corvettes, and later the air-cooled Volkswagens. And from there, I moved more into the automotive restoration, where we restored classic cars and managed an automotive restoration shop for a few years. I then went into here at the dealership, and I'm going on 3 years here as the internet sales manager at Hecht.
That's awesome. And so basically your love of automotive just basically led you to this point where you joined Hecht. Why Hecht specifically?
It's a local dealership and has a great reputation, and it's close to my home and offered everything that I was looking for in my next career.
Have you lived in Effingham your whole life?
I have.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting because Hecht, from looking at like Google reviews, awesome reviews, like this, like beloved in the area. But the thing, if anyone would go onto Hecht's website, they would notice is that you're a Toyota and a Chevrolet dealer under one roof. Why the decision to have both of them under one website roof?
It is very unique, as I understand. We're one of very few dealerships that have two OEMs under one roof. It does present its own set of challenges, needless to say, but somehow both OEMs allow the dealership to do so. We have one showroom that we display, both vehicles. We do have a Chevrolet storefront and a Toyota storefront in the front of the building. So it does have that separation, two different entrances, but everything else is shared, from our staff to our service department and our website actually as well. We do have our two OEM websites, but then we also have our one joint website as well.
What are the positives of having both of your OEMs, or both of these OEMs, under one roof?
We can offer the shopper more choices, more selection, more options that are available. They're both great brands, very strong brands, very affordable brands. Both have great reputations, a great history, and I can't think of two that I would rather represent.
Yeah, again, I own a Toyota. I love it. I'd probably buy a Chevy as my other one, or maybe a Ford, but those are my three. Having both of them in their one spot is great for me. What are the negatives, do you think? Obviously, I'd assume that this took a little bit of finagling at the start with specifically Toyota. What are some of the challenges that come up because of having both of these OEMs under one roof?
Well, I think one, our sales staff, they do have to be more diversified. They have many more models that they have to learn, the options, the features of those vehicles versus having just one OEM. We have to have, two sets of trained service technicians, that specialize in both Chevrolet and Toyota, and different equipment for both of those. So those are some challenges. Until the internet probably became more of the go-to for shoppers, we really considered ourselves, we're one dealership, but online we really are two dealerships. So it's very hard when you're driving traffic, where do you drive them to? Do you drive them to the joint OEM, which we've always done in traditional marketing, the radio and TV, it's always been danhecht.com. But when you go out digitally, it's a whole new ballgame. So that presents its own set of challenges.
And of course, obviously coming from an SEO background, I know most of those challenges right out of the gate. So what do you think has to be done to train teams in those two separate matters? Is it, do you have more extensive training? Do you have like elongated training? We do it over a longer period of time. How do you incorporate new hires into your operations?
It's really ongoing training. The training never ends. We have, obviously, as you probably know, both OEMs offer our sales staff and I mean all of our staff ongoing training that is or really not even recommended that we have to take. That keeps us up to date on the most recent information that they provide. So it is ongoing training, learning, and also learning about your competition because we have other dealers right here in town that have comparable models that people are shopping. And the internet has made shopping so easy and makes comparing so easy. So you have to put your best foot forward every time you meet with that customer. You're gonna lose.
Absolutely. A thing that I noticed on your site that you had that I thought was interesting, and I don't see a lot of dealerships do it as much, were collision and like auto detailing and car rental. This kind of third section of an automotive business. Can you walk me through your experience with trying to promote those avenues digitally?
We do have Google My Business pages for the rental, the detail, and the collision because while they're departments within the dealership, they're also somewhat standalone businesses in themselves, or kind of a business within a business, is how I describe it. Our rental, we're the only rental place in our town. So we did have oh, can't think of the name of it, Enterprise. We did have Enterprise until probably when the pandemic hit and they closed here in town. So our rental department gets a lot of traffic and a lot of business from local businesses using it for business related uses to people personally renting vehicles for vacations and things like that. Our detail department, while we use that for our own vehicles, we also promote that for any customer to come in here and have their vehicles detailed. So we're always promoting that department as well as with the collision. The collision is obviously an asset to have that collision department here because someone does total their car. Well, guess what? We have a lot of cars we can offer them to sell. So it's a nice addition to have all of those departments within the company.
That's fantastic. And with obviously the rise of COVID last year and still into this year, how have those departments had to change their operations to meet the new standards and the new normal?
It's been challenging. I don't feel we were affected drastically. Probably doing, more delivery and pickup in our service department, offering that. Obviously, making sure that we sanitize everything before and after, and making sure our customers know that we're doing that. We offered, we do some Zoom meetings now with customers. We also do a lot of, we use video quite a bit. So we do a lot of video walkarounds and things like that with vehicles for customer shopping. It's been very effective for us. And we also use a chat tool that we communicate with them. So any way we can communicate with the customer. And today, customers don't want to come in until the very last minute, until they pretty much made their decision. The days of just driving around and looking at a car have probably decreased significantly because they're sitting at home in the comfort of their home, shopping online and looking at the cars that way. When they find what they want, then they come in and take a closer look. So you've got to be more creative in the ways that you reach out to those customers.
How have you found that that changes the customer experience? Do you think that puts a damper on the whole thing? Do you think it makes it easier, which makes customers relax more? How do you think customers are reacting to a more digitally focused experience?
Oh gosh, that's a hard question. Um,
It's a very open-ended question.
yeah, it is. That's a hard question because, you know, most people, they come into a dealership, they're ready to negotiate, and they don't like coming in, and it's probably the second biggest purchase many people make. So it should be a great experience. You want people to be excited about their experience and not being like, oh, we have to go to the dealership and have our, arms up, ready to like negotiate, and we don't want to be there a long time. And I think those are the biggest things that a dealership has to combat, and being very transparent and letting the customer know, and really selling the features of the vehicle, and making sure that we're comparing apples to apples. I see that all too often, that we're really not comparing the same type of thing, and really finding out about what the customer's needs are. And many times customers come in here probably with one thing in mind, and they drive away with something else that may better fit their needs, just based upon the questions that we ask. So we really do try to listen, rather than talk, because that's when you listen to a customer and what their needs are, you're much more prepared to be able to get them into what they need, um, rather than just selling them a vehicle that may or may not work for them down the road. And service after the sale, that's very important. Not only do we want to sell you the vehicle, but we want you to come back and have the service after the sale, because that repeat business is not, you can't replace that. And we have many customers that come from a pretty big radius, mileage wise, that come back and buy vehicles here versus maybe a dealer that would be closer to them.
And I was actually going to ask you about, because you mentioned the big radius. You are pretty much equal
Mhm.
distance from St. Louis and Indianapolis.
We are.
How is that from a marketing standpoint? Do you lean and gravitate towards one city over the other, or do you have to share equal spread between the two?
Well, we do. We are in the middle of nowhere, so I guess that's kind of an advantage. I don't know if that's an advantage or disadvantages for Toyota. There's not as many Toyota dealers, so we do have a much bigger area that we can pull from. And Chevy, obviously, there's many little Chevy dealerships in the small towns. We do own a second Chevrolet dealership west of us, so that helps us really extend our reach more toward the St. Louis area, or that's what we hope, to gain from that. And that was a new acquisition that we've recently made. And east, when we go east, there's not a lot of dealerships between us and Terre Haute. So we have a pretty a big radius to work with, and we do pull people in from those cities every day. The internet's made, basically, we get customers from all over the U.S. buying vehicles. So
It's a fascinating whole new world. For a dealership that is, like you said, in a more smaller rural area, I'd imagine for as long as you guys have been around, you're more entrenched with traditional marketing. So your TV ads, your newspaper ads, your standard billboards. What has the transition looked like into some more digital space? And when do you think traditional is going to have a place in the market still in the future, or do you think eventually it's going to be
mhm.
mostly digital?
We do still do a lot of traditional marketing, the radio and the newspaper. I think that those will be more just branding, getting your name, keeping your name in front of people. Uh, the days of having a full page newspaper ad with your vehicles, in it, I think those days are numbered. If many dealers are not even doing that anymore. So that's changed drastically. Plus, it's so dated. Your internet's up to date pretty much to the minute if you want it to be. When you have a new vehicle, you can have it out there in a matter of minutes versus, oh, the newspaper's coming out on Friday. We'll be able to get that out there on Friday. And even the radio, I don't listen to the radio. I listen to Sirius XM. I can't tell you the last time I listened to a local radio station. So even those, are going away. Your older generation of buyers may still do some of that traditional, and we have a large number of those. But as the newer owners start coming up, I think you'll see less and less of that.
And for your team, is your team today currently older, younger, somewhere in the middle?
And we have a pretty good mix for our sales team is a pretty good mix from 20 late 20s to probably 50, maybe in the 50s, something like that. So we have a pretty good mix. We have 10 to 11 salespeople usually at any given time. And I think a pretty good mix.
That's awesome. Um, and so have you felt that having younger team members has kind of helped move into digital, or do you find that actually, which is
Mhm.
quite commonly the case, some of the older team members are the ones that actually have the best strategies for online because of their experience of working in the industry as long as they have. How have you kind of married those two together?
I see the younger employees being more comfortable with the social media and the online, whether it's with the videos or having a Facebook page of their own and out there doing that type of marketing. Some of the older salespeople are a little slower to come around to some of those ideas and using them just because they're not as comfortable or they don't use them every day. It's not a part of their uh, daily, routine, I guess. Where I think some of the younger salespeople, it is just kind of part of their day. My kids, they don't know life without it. So I think that's what you'll see as we continue to hire new people.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of times, like older salespeople, they just been sharpening the same tools for so long that they're so comfortable with them. And it's not, from what I understand, when I hear from different dealerships, it's not that they are incapable of learning. It's just there's a little bit of hesitation because, well, I'm already comfortable with this. I already know that,
Mhm.
if I have a customer come through the door, I give them my pitch and I'm going to get them in a car by the end of the day. Sometimes they're not as comfortable being like, hey, say hi for the camera so we could put this on Facebook. A lot of the times, like, okay, well, what is this going to do? Is this going to help us? But I do think those personalization touches matter. You mentioned video walkarounds. What was kind of like the learning curve for that? How long have you been doing those for? And have you learned any, lessons that you think are worth sharing?
We have been doing those. Well, I've been here almost 3 years and they were using it when I came here. So I'm not sure when they really introduced it. But when I started the dealership about 3 years ago, we started pushing it even more. And I can tell you that the salespeople that use it consistently and regularly, their sales do reflect that. Their customers like it. It's another way to engage. It puts the human factor back into it because let's face it, people still like that human touch. They still, and if they're interested, it puts a face with a name. So when they do come in, they know who to ask for. It's just much more personal. And that's really, at the end of the day, even though we have all this technology, we still like that personal touch. So how can you give that personal touch in a different way? And I think that does answer that.
Yeah, with how technology is becoming so much prevalent, people want to have, like you just said, they want to still feel like they have a personal connection to it. They don't want to lose that entirely. So it actually becomes so much more important. So I totally agree with that sentiment. I think it's incredibly important to be able to demonstrate online that you have that mindset. I think that dealerships almost universally now have understood that that's a massive part of how they need to market themselves and how they actually have to act when they're in the store. So you are currently using our website and some of our digital marketing. What products are you currently using today with FusionZone?
Well, obviously, we use fusionZONE for our primary website and our Toyota website. We actually were a MotorWebs customer. Uh, and then migrated over to fusionZONE when you acquired MotorWebs. And we started using the SEO product probably about 2 years ago, maybe right around 2 years ago, and then added the SEM as well. And we also did some social media. We're currently not using the social media. We put a pause on that because we want to try out some other products, but we have used all three of those products.
And has your experiences been with those products so far?
The SEO has been, I can't say enough good things about it and helping us get all the information, all the meta tags in place, getting all of our listings updated and getting, us in the rankings on the SEO. for our local. When we do our reports, I love it when they take us through and kind of show us where we are compared to other dealers in our area when we're on SEO. So if my general manager ever questions me, going, "Are we really getting anything for that money?" He asks me that all the time. I'm like, "Yes, we are," and and they can support that and show us like how, where we're getting that traffic and how we're performing in that area. So we have monthly calls. I love having a monthly call. I mean, they would probably have a weekly call if I asked them to. Very responsive when I call and ask a question. And believe me, I ask a lot of questions because I wish I was an SEO expert or an SEM, but I don't have time to do that in my day. So I do have to rely on some other people to help do that. And it is too big. I know if a dealer's trying to do that all themselves internally, I don't know how they're doing it because for the money that we pay you guys to do that. So I can't say enough good things about that.
That's awesome. Thank you for the very kind words. Um, One of a thing that commonly comes up when I do these interviews is that there's always a separation between like the GM and the more marketing side and the operations side about the products and services that you're getting with parties. You mentioned you get common questions about, is this doing anything for us? What has been the challenges with relaying that information from maybe a product like SEO where you understand the foundational pieces of it, but maybe you don't understand it like a super high level? I could be wrong. Um, Versus, like trying to explain that to your boss of why it's affecting you today. What has helped you with that?
And I think education is huge because it is, our owners are second generation owners, and they've been in the business. They started with traditional marketing, so grasping this whole digital, and the digital has really taken off even more. In the recent few years, I feel anyway, and how if you're not there, you're losing out. And it is all measurable. I think that's the thing that I like. So you do have the tools, to be able to measure your performance, and it's only getting better and better. It just amazes me sometimes of all the information. Probably scares me a little bit, as much as I do online shopping, of probably how much they know about me. But the traditional marketing, the radio, the newspaper, how do you really know how effective that's really being? We put our money into that, but how effective are we really don't know. I don't really have too many people walking through the door saying, "Hey, I saw your ad in the newspaper, I saw that car in the newspaper." It's all like, "I saw this online, I saw this online." And if I can only get my salespeople to probably put in our CRM the actual source of every customer that comes in, it would probably be, I don't know, 90% I saw this online, people shopping online and looking. So how do people find you? You've got to be out there.
Right. What do you look for in a third party vendor to make a really strong like business relationship with them?
And value is still very important to us, that we feel like we're getting a good value for the money that we're spending. We do want to make every penny count. That they are producing results for us, and at the end of the day, that your products is selling cars for me, because I can do all the marketing I want, but if it's not selling cars, then I have to question, is that really being effective? And I do think too that you can't be too soon to change third party vendors, because it does take a little bit of time. And if you're giving someone 3 months and you're pulling out and changing to someone else, it does take a little bit of time to get traction and get to know that marketing footprint, I think, of what, and marketing is always about what's working and not working. Even back in the more traditional marketing, I come from direct mail marketing way back in the day, where we mailed catalogs, so and we test all the time, and we looked at response rates and what's working. You're always testing and seeing what is effective and not effective. And there's always new technologies coming out, and Google, they're always changing the playbook on us too. So that's another challenge, to have somebody that's always staying on top of those things for us, because again, I wouldn't have enough time in the day, nor would they probably want to pay me the amount of money I'd want if I was on top of my game on all of that. They would never want to pay me that kind of salary. So it's, having an expert person on staff, almost like on staff with us, is very helpful. And I learn a lot too. I learn enough to be dangerous. So
Fantastic. Lori, this has been wonderful. I really liked getting to know you and your business a little bit more today. I hope to have you back on soon. If you want to check out Lori, you can check out danhecht.com. That's their website. Lori Worman, thanks again for talking to me today.
thank you.